9 months ago today, NBC News declared Joseph Biden the winner of the 2020 election and the 46th president of the United States. The 2.5 months between that day and Inauguration Day were a transition period unlike any in American history. Perhaps the only time a sitting U.S. president actively tried to overturn an election result. Even 9 months later, we're still learning just how extensive that effort was. As we mentioned at the top of the hour, ABC News reported this week that the now former Assistant Attorney General Jeffrey Clark drafted a letter to Georgia officials telling them that the Justice Department was investigating, quote, voting irregularities and urging them to call a special session to choose their own electors. Neither NBC nor MSNBC has verified those materials, but we can tell you that the acting Attorney General, Jeffrey Rosen, rejected the letter. It was never sent. On Wednesday night, Congressman Raja Krishnamurthy, a member of the House Oversight Committee, told me that Clark had drafted similar letters to officials in 6 states that all went for Biden. So it looks like he had more than just Georgia on his mind. And these revelations come after last weekend's reporting by the New York Times' Katie Benner that Trump himself pressed the Justice Department to declare the election results corrupt. For more on this, I'm joined by Joyce Vance, former U.S. attorney and now an MSNBC legal analyst and a professor at the University of Alabama Law School. Also with me, Roland Martin, host of Roland Martin Unfiltered, who is so devoted to his craft that he's doing it even while he's at a benefit golf tournament this morning. Great to see both of you. Joyce Vance, you have written an article along with a few others in the Washington Post, a roadmap to prosecuting Donald Trump, in which you lay out some crimes: conspiracy, obstruction of an official proceeding, RICO, violation of the Hatch Act, and inciting insurrection and or seditious conspiracy. Here's my question to you. I had a whole bunch of people tell me they didn't even want a January 6th commission because it would be like impeachment all over again. They've already seen this. It's been done. Donald Trump's been impeached twice. But we're actually working on new evidence. We've got new stuff that makes what you thought happened on January 6th even worse than it was. And you and others like you think there should be a criminal prosecution for this.
So this is why, folks are so often dismayed by the fact that prosecutions take a long time to come together. Indictments can be delayed for what seems to the public like an unconscionable amount of time. But the reality is, from inside of the game, if you're a prosecutor and an investigator, these facts come to light slowly. And often you can miss the worst conduct if you're too eager to jump too soon. We're seeing that happen in real time now. And the argument that we make is that DOJ needs to be, if it is not already, seriously investigating a number of crimes that range from a conspiracy to defraud the government, to obstruction of official proceedings, to sedition and incitement of insurrection charges, but also voter fraud claims based on this effort by Trump and his allies to have states tabulate false votes, and even a criminal hatch provision. That's not to say that all of these charges should be indicted, but DOJ must not move past the effort to fully investigate these items in a criminal sense, even while Congress continues to keep the momentum up with the January 6th Commission. Facts can be elusive things, and people who are involved in criminal activity want to keep them from coming to light. So it can be a frustrating process, but frankly, I think we're now at the point where the truth can come to light, where the former president no longer has the power of the pardon and other accoutrements of the office of the presidency at his disposal, and we will finally see accountability here.
Roland, do you think people get, and you're from Texas, so this is playing out in real time there. Do you think people get the connection between the suppression of voter rights, these restrictive voting rights bills, and the actual stuff that was going on, the actual efforts that the last administration was involved in, or the last president was involved in, to potentially overturn the will of the people in places like Georgia and Pennsylvania and Arizona and Michigan and Wisconsin? Do you think that connection is obvious?
No, I don't think the connection is obvious, because part of the problem has been the unwillingness of Democrats to forcefully explain this to the public. That is the fundamental problem here, Alshi. The reality is this here: Donald Trump was thug in chief. That's who he was. And so when you see the changing of all of these laws, it is to accommodate what he was trying to accomplish. This man is going to run in 2024. We've got to confront this. What they were engaged in was absolute illegal activity. And at some point, we have got to be willing to say this cannot happen again, and we must target every single person. They will try it again, and the Republicans in the Senate and the House, they don't care. They care about power. They care about control, and we must confront this. We cannot allow these thugs to be in power again.
You know, Joyce, all through the president's misdeeds, we were talking about Watergate. We had experts from Watergate. We had people who had been there in Watergate telling us about the similarities. But Watergate almost seems small by comparison to what we are learning now about letters, pressure on the Attorney General, the acting Attorney General, letters potentially from the Attorney General to the state of Georgia to say, don't listen to the will of the people. There was something wrong with your election. I mean, that becomes a little harder than that weird Christmas time phone call from Donald Trump to Brad Raffensperger. One of the things I'm most worried about is we don't actually have guardrails to prevent against this happening. It depended on good people of goodwill to say, I'm not doing this.
It is frightening. We should all be frightened. I think it's easy to discount events when you're living through them, but Roland is dead on the money. We need to be very focused on what's happening now. I don't say that in an alarmist fashion, just pragmatically as an American, because what Trump and his cronies tried to do after this election with getting state legislatures to throw the election to Trump, that has now become the law in a number of states. For instance, Georgia, yes, where there's a bill that permits the legislature to intervene. So, Ali, I think the good comparison isn't Watergate, it's the Civil War. You made that point at the top of the show where there was an effort to rend the Union asunder. And the difference is that at the end of the Civil War, there were people who came forward and surrendered, who acknowledged that they had been wrong. Trump has never done that. Trump is dedicated to moving forward. He will do it again. He will subvert the law. That's why it's so imperative that DOJ take this seriously. And although DOJ doesn't like to engage in criminal prosecutions, this is the rare exceptional case where it must happen or we are at grave risk.
Hey, Ali, I want to expand just a little bit more.
Yeah.
Republicans in Pennsylvania literally were trying to change how members of the Supreme Court in the state were elected. They wanted to go to districts because they were angry with their decision. In North Carolina, after they lost control of the state Supreme Court, they tried to give more of the power to the court underneath the state Supreme Court. So what we have to understand here is that Republicans today, to your point, they have no morals, they have no values, they have no principles. This is not about America or democracy. They are choosing power, even over party. And what we have to realize, they are doing it in our face, which tells you they will continue to do it in 2022 and in 2023 and in 2024. And God forbid that thug somehow gets the nomination and comes close to being back in the Oval Office. If you think the crap that he did for 4 years, if you think that was crazy, just watch what this man would try to do with the second term. America is in danger, and this is real.